Hey guys, welcome to another episode with the plugs. Chris here today. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a blessed week. And I'm very excited about the story I have to share with you all. This story is from the book of Luke, chapter 15. It is one of the four Gospels in the New Testament. If you're not sure what that means, the Bible is split kind of in two sections. Obviously, there's various books and chapters and verses and all of that, but you have the Old Testament and you have the New Testament. And in the New Testament, there are four Gospels, which are, as I said a few moments ago, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And so the story I'd like to share with you all is from the book of Luke, chapter 15, once again. And at this point in time, Jesus is sitting with the sinners. And this is important for you guys to hear it before we really dive into the story and what Jesus says to these folks, because think about this, this is during a time when, everyone, it was very, very, well, for the folks that were religious, they were very rigid and strict, and things had to be a certain way. You had to do things a certain way, behave a certain way. They just had very, very strict regulations and rules. I mean, you hear another story in the Gospels about when Jesus heals a man on the Sabbath day. And, the religious folks when the man came to Jesus for healing, the religious folks were kind of staring at him, looking, okay, well, what is he going to do, right? And when Jesus does heal this man, the religious folks, I mean, they are just ruthless, in the way that they treat him in their commentary towards him, because they say, well, how can you're not supposed to work on the Sabbath. How dare you heal this man on the Sabbath, right? And, it's just an example of, how when we allow kind of the hardness of our hearts to take over and override what's most important, which is to love thy neighbor as thyself, right? That's one of the commandments, one of the greatest commandments that we're called to do. So anyways, in this point in time, Jesus is sitting with the sinners. In the very first verse, he's sitting with the, I'll actually read what it says. It says, now the tax collectors and sinners were all drawing near to hear him, right? So he's with all the sinners. Jesus, like, that is so huge. We just had a couple series where you guys hear us talk about salvation and what that means, and you have to really get this. Even just the first line is so huge, because Jesus is the only perfect one, is the only perfect one, forever will be the only perfect one ever, right? No one else is perfect. As it's written in the Bible, it says, for we all have fallen short of the glory of God. That's all of us. No one is excluded from that. So in his perfection, in his holy perfection, he goes and he sits with the sinners. And why? It's because he's ministering to them. He wants them to be saved. He wants them to repent from their sin. And when you say repent, it means to turn away from, right? So he wants them to discover the truth and not live in their sin, right? And the way that he does it is so beautiful. He doesn't come in there and shame them. He doesn't come in there and now he does go into the church and flip tables, but we'll get into that another day. But the way he does it, he tells them a story and they just marvel at him, because another thing is Jesus often speaks in parables. And there's a reason for this, and we will get into that later. But let's get into this story, because this is so good, you guys. So this is the parable of the prodigal son. Okay, this is the story that Jesus shares with them. And if you want to know exactly where you can find this, it's Luke 15, starting at verse 11. And I am reading the ESV version, okay? So here we go. It says, And he said, there was a man who had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the share of property that is coming to me. And he divided his property between them. Not many days later, the younger son gathered all he had and took a journey into a far country. And there he squandered his property in reckless living. And when he had spent everything, a severe famine arose in that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into his fields to feed pigs. And he was lodging to be fed with the pods that the pigs ate, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, how many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread, but I perish here with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants. And he arose and came to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion, and ran and embraced him and kissed him. And the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, bring quickly the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet, and bring the fattened calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. And they began to celebrate. Now let's pause right there. That is so good. For those that don't understand the depth of this story, and keep this in mind, guys. We talked about love letter and, going through and reading the Bible, and it's okay to read things over and over. Here's another thing to bear in mind. A lot of text, we often can just read, different verses, and we can miss things. Sometimes because we're reading too fast, we just want to get through it. And other times because we don't actually sit down and really meditate on the depth of the message. So in this story, in this parable, this is relevant to our relationship with God. We, as filthy as we are, when we come to God, he just loves us. He just loves us. He loves us so much. You can come to him just as you are.